Just lifting that up as to say this is, critical work that you all are doing. We just came off a big month in terms of revenues coming in December that we'll talk about. But, amidst the local disasters, and if I can say the federal disasters that are happening, ULA is humming along. It's moving, it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And so for today in your agenda, I just want to lift up a couple things we put in our letter. Just continue to do the work that you're doing to make sure all the programs are moving, quickly. We've been working with the housing department on item number 8 around the income support for disaster relief. And so, we lend our support to that approach and, really lifting up the role of the ad hoc committees that you all are discussing today and how important that work is to keep things moving. And a little extra push for the communications piece because it's so important for people to know about ULA programs and also for the public to understand the benefit that's coming from it. Because unfortunately, there's still many attacks that come against ULA, and the more that everyone can do to address that, the better. So, well over time. So, thank you very much.
We have Devon Woodfine.
Hello, I'm Devin Woodfine, and my family has been residing at the same townhouse for 51 years. In December of 2022, my property was bought by a young developer who owns properties all throughout the city of LA. He has failed multiple inspections with LAHD's code enforcement, the Department of Public Health. And my family is so tired of having to work with these agencies that have told us we don't care about you, we only care about the building. I was just diagnosed with an upper respiratory tract infection after they recently took out a furnace. He had put in an illegal furnace in my unit. And the new worker that he had came in and said that if you don't replace this, I'm going to walk away from the job. The landlord is still allowed to get away with multiple harassments. I've received over 5 Tahoe letters since 2024 to now, and none of these letters have done anything. When I spoke to senior housing investigator Joseph Placencia, he says because I'm a Section 8 tenant, we can't enforce the reduction of services, even though I have evidence going back years showing that we weren't getting garbage pickup, we didn't have heat. I have even complained and got a lead inspector, Andreas Moran, in disciplinary action because when he spoke to me and my mom, I told him we were not served proper notice per LHG's guidelines. He says he doesn't care. He says going forward, if you don't cooperate and let him in, I'm going to close out your case. So my mom, upset, asked him, who's your boss? What's her name? What's your title? And give me the number. We called her and we told her the notices the landlord was putting on the door had these issues. She says, if what you said is true, then you are correct. So she told me to email it to her. And that same day, I got off the phone and sent her an email, and she verified that what I had told her was correct. I was within my right to deny entry, and they gave him a failure to comply and pushed our case to case management. Even now, we haven't had a kitchen since Monday because he demolished it and left us exposed to mold, mildew, and other substances. We have not been able to cook, so me and my family are working to deduct from the rent and prorate this. We have been trying to work with him, but he came to us telling us he was going to demolish the building and he wants to talk about relocation. He has evicted 2 tenants and he's evicting an elderly blind Korean family who have a cognitive decline. I'm asking for help for anyone who has any compassion for me. We're already suing him now, but he's been doing this throughout the city. Thank you.
Is everybody online? My phone?
There we go.
No, now you got one.
We have a speaker calling in.
Fantastic. We'll take the speaker who's calling in.
All right, phone number 3713.
Okay. For the speaker with the last 4 numbers, 3713, please press *6 to unmute your mic to speak. Do you need translation services in Spanish?
Hi, this is Ruth.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it's kind of loud in the background because it's raining. I'm unhoused. I live outside. I spoke to you before the fires with my friend Ava, who has since been locked out of her apartment. We've also had the fires, which I evacuated for. But I see on this thing like that you're going to implement the income assistance for seniors and disabled people, which I had asked you about implementation last time because Ava could have really benefited from access to that program. And I see it's going to be like for disaster victims, which is great. But I'm just wondering what the difference would be. Like if the program was implemented and functioning, it should serve them just as well as it was serving everyone else. Like, but I fear that this is a way to deny the people that already needed assistance in favor of people who now need it because of the fire, where really a functional assistance program would be able to accept their applications and assist them just the same. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be addressing that. Later in the agenda. Thank you for your call, though.
Yep.
That's
That's
it for
it for public comment, but we're not closing public comment because we need to or keep it open. So when we do have quorum, we can take further public comment.
Okay. We're going to move through the agenda with the items that don't require action. Item number 4 on the agenda is the COC Chair's report, my report. And let's see. Well, I'll just go with my written comments. I'd like to start by acknowledging that after a thoughtful discussion and with the team regarding LA's January wildfires, we postponed January's COC meeting until this February meeting. While keeping us connected as a community and a committee are always critical, the safety and well-being of our team and our responsibility to support rather than burden affected communities came first. You and your extended families have been in our thoughts. Later on the agenda, we'll cover direct assistance available under ULA to persons affected by the fires, specifically seniors and persons with disability. But I, like everyone here, wanted to acknowledge that it's been a hard couple of months. And I thank you for your work. I also want to introduce a newly appointed committee person, Nancy Lewis. She is not here today. But Nancy is somebody whose name I've been hearing since I've been involved in affordable housing for the last 25 years. She is filling seat 1, which is the Housing Development Preservation and Finance seat that was formerly held by Alan Greenlee. She has over 40 years of experience in the development of affordable housing. She founded and ran an affordable housing development consulting firm, Nancy Lewis Associates, Inc., which provided clients with assistance in project planning and financing, feasibility analysis, project management, program development, and policy analysis. Prior to her retirement in 2022, she assisted the development of over 5,000 affordable units through new construction and rehabilitation of housing for families, seniors, the unhoused, and persons with special needs. This included the development of rental housing, low-income housing cooperatives, and interim and permanent supportive housing. In addition, she worked with localities to design notices of funding availability, review of funding applications, due diligence and loan closings, and management of first-time home buyer programs. We are truly excited to add Nancy to the roster. She is a great asset to our community. That closes item number 4 on the agenda. Can I close that item on the agenda? And we're going to move to item number 5 on the agenda, which is the IIG's report. I will now invite Abigail
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Coulter. So the IIG has a few updates for COC members. So first, we would just like to update everyone that our contract amendment that we presented about a few meetings ago has been approved by the full City Council, and that's expected to come into effect this month. Second, we would love to introduce to you all Mia as a new staff member. Mia's over here. If you can give us a wave, thank you. And then just this short bio about Mia. Mia is an associate here at Estelano Advisors, and she's been at the firm for almost 2 years. Previously, she has worked with housing and labor-focused power building organizations as a policy advocate, conducting applied research for various campaigns that empower community and worker voices. Her work primarily focuses on creative models of community and economic development. And prior to her being like an official staff member with the IIG, she worked really hard to redevelop our internal ULA COC logo and our website. And she will be closely tied to the communications ad hoc work plan. So we're very excited that she is on our team. And please feel free to reach out to her if you need anything. So next, our next update is that the IIG has been working alongside of the chair, interim vice chair, and LHD's procurement staff, and then LHD staff here as well, to begin preparing an RFP for auditing services that we will present along with a proposed work plan timeline for your approval during the March COC meeting. So this is in direct line with the directive of the measure, which asks for an independent auditor to audit the House LA Fund expenditures and receipts annually. This auditor will be subcontracted by us, the IIG, and will be chosen from a review committee, ideally composed of members from the governance ad hoc committee, the IIG, and then relevant staff from LAHD. Throughout this process, once the RFP kind of gets up and going, we plan to work closely with the COC and LHD to develop an additional request, which we'll talk about this all in March as well, but an additional request for an external researcher to help us develop metrics to better inform the scope of upcoming needs assessments and evaluation based on the COC's previous feedback about the previous needs assessment. So, and again, more on this will be shared in the March COC meeting, but just to let you know that the primary thing that's coming down the pipeline is the RFP for auditing services. And then, like I mentioned, our next COC meeting is in March, but you all should have received invitations for an additional COC meeting that is scheduled for April 24th as well. So we'll be planning on a March meeting and then also an April meeting. And that is it for the IIG updates.
Great. That closes item number 5. We can move now to item number 6 on the agenda, which is LAHD's report. Well, welcome to the table, Mr. Good.
Oh, excellent. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Commissioner Morales, hello.
So I'm going to pause and say that now we have quorum. Now we have quorum. And should I open it again to public comment? Call to order. I call this meeting to order. The time is now something. 3:24. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I'm going to call again for public comment.
Yeah, it's yes.
All right. I have called for public comment.
Well,
Hold on.
let's call to order, just the usual process for call roll.
Roll. Excellent. I love this. Okay. We have done housekeeping. We have talked about these speaker cards. Which I will need to do again. I'm doing that right now. For those wishing to make a public comment, if you haven't already done so, please take a public speaker card, fill it out, and hand it to one of the LAHD staff. If you are joining the meeting virtually and would like to make a public comment, please refer to the instructions on the agenda on how to place yourself in the virtual queue. Speaker time. As always, we appreciate and encourage public comment, as your voice is vital in how we shape our policies and direction. Thank you all for your commitment. And we want everyone to be heard. However, to ensure that the committee has ample time to vet and deliberate the issues on today's agenda, we request that if there are multiple people that are speaking on the same message, please consolidate your message into one member who will be given a speaker time of 2 minutes. Translation. We do not have available a translator today.
We do have available interpretation both on Zoom and in person, but we do not have headsets. So if you require translation services, we're happy to provide. We'll just probably take them in the back corner of the room if we need it.
Okay. Thank you. And now, I believe we can call roll. Mr. Custodian?
Chairperson Espinosa,
Here.
Vice Chair Knight,
Present.
Here.
Committee Member Jones,
Here.
Committee Member Raymond. Here. Committee Member Reed,
Here.
Fantastic. Moving now again to item number 3 on the agenda, public comment. If you wish to make in-person comment, we invite you to the podium.
fill out a card.
Fill out another card. Okay, moving now to virtual public comment. Anybody in
We have
queue?
one speaker with phone number ending 3713. Please press *6 and
Hi, thank you for letting me comment again. I'm sorry, it's still raining. Ava, I was able to look up her zip code, got or made $5 million in ULA contributions over 10 transactions, and so I noticed that the Stay House LA website, which is supposed to assist people who need rental help, like who are getting evicted and stuff, it only prioritizes certain zip codes, and her zip code was not one of them, so she couldn't get any assistance through Stay House LA. And I was just wondering, like, why there's only some zip codes getting some of that assistance if all of them are paying into it, and if it's going to be rolled out to every zip code and when. And yeah, I mean, I calculated all of the evictions in her building, which would have been like most of her census tract and a large portion of her zip code, could have been paid off for like less than 300,000, like maybe 250,000, if like they could make better spending plans locally for these ULA mansion tax contributions. I think it could be more productive as far as actually keeping people housed. And I know that this is all going to change with the fires. I don't know, what's going to happen with the mansion taxes and everything. I know that's going to be affected, but I just wanted to amplify that because it's weird when you're like, when these zip codes are paying into it and then they're not getting any assistance, and then certain ones it's creating inequities. Thank you.
I am looking at the faces of our colleagues from LHD and seeing that they're going to address this, but could you tell me what was the zip code again? I'm just curious. She's gone. Okay, all right.
It's 90291. I made a
902.
map of like the prioritized ones. I don't know how to get it to you though, but yeah, it's interesting.
Okay,
None
thank
of them
you.
are by the coast. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, that closes item number 3, public comments. We have completed item number 4, the COC Chair's report. completed item number 5, the interim Inspector General's report, and we move on now to item number 6, LHD report. Thank you, Mr. Good.
Forgive. I think I'm gonna be talking a bunch. All right, good afternoon, everybody. On this balmy Los Angeles Thursday. Good to see everyone. I am Greg Good with the Los Angeles Housing Department, and it is my pleasure and privilege to be with y'all today. I'm going to start off with our LAHD monthly report, and then I'm happy to address some questions that have emerged over the course of public comment to the greatest degree possible. With our report, first off, oh boy. This is like the frog in the commercial or in the thing. Hello, my honey. Hello, my dog. We have another one? So while we're waiting for the technology, because in the interest of time, we have a lot to cover, I'll just kind of start. Slide 1 is a good news slide, and it is relative to, oh, y'all have it, don't you? Although, can I do that, Michael, or do I need to wait? Yeah, okay. ULA revenue to date. As you can see, ULA revenue is on a significant upward trend, with monthly receipts continuing to break records. Last month, January, was our highest month yet, with over $54 million collected on 73 transactions in December. That brings our total revenue, as you can all see, for the first 7 months. Let's go back to the, oh, never mind, there we are. Okay, brings our total revenue for the first 7 months of this fiscal year, which is a reminder for everyone, started July 1, thank you, Ted, to $255 million. This is pretty exciting, particularly given the context to consider, which is that in fiscal year 23-24, for all 12 months, we raised $312 million, and we're now at 255 at 7 months. So, and you can see with our nifty dashboard graph, the arrows keep working up. So very exciting stuff. We will see how, admittedly, a number of different factors ranging from administration changes in Washington to the obvious calamity and emergency that we've all dealt with over the course of January, how that may impact things. But for now, revenue is going where we want it to go. And just for the record, as a reminder, what that means is that our expenditure plan, which you all approved last year, excuse me, for 24-25, the expenditure plan included a 25-26 and a 26-27. The 25-26 will end up being amended to reflect. And so some things, for example, like the true up that we had to do, which will still need some truing up on some areas, but the truing up will likely happen it will happen faster the more dollars we have. So there are implications past even revenue right here in front of us. Okay. So budget to actual, slide 4. Forgive. So the budget to actuals report is available through the end of December. We're generally holding steady on the affordable housing program since we last met. No new major updates, as we discussed in December. Some funds from the multifamily affordable housing program are starting to be spent as the Accelerator Plus program projects are in construction and are beginning to draw down on their their money awards or on the funding awards. Meanwhile, as a reminder, funds for the other affordable housing programs won't go out until after we issue NOFAs and make funding awards. Our plan for now is with the COCs and the chairs agreement is that we will at the March meeting present a timeline and sort of implementation plan around the affordable housing NOFAs over the course of the next year. And then in April, or at least at some point in the near future, also come back to the COC to discuss loan limits for those 24, 25, 26 NOFAs as well. Okay. On the homelessness prevention programs, we continue to spend funds under the Eviction Defense Prevention Program, which is largely being spent through our contract with Legal Aid Foundation Los Angeles. For tenant outreach and education, we've largely spent down the funds on our existing contract with LeGrant Communications, which is a contractor we work with. Later in this presentation, I'll also provide further details on how we've been utilizing the remaining funds for this contract in response to the fires and making sure that tenants are aware of the different programs and protections that they have available to them and how we could further leverage the remaining funds available under this program. Meanwhile, as the committee is aware, we have spent all the funds currently allocated under short-term emergency assistance. No funds have yet been spent through the income support program as of the date of this presentation, though I will have an update on recent progress made towards implementation later in this presentation. And we expect those funds will start going out the door soon. It went live 2 weeks ago. And lastly, on protections from tenant harassment, we anticipate starting to draw down on those funds now that we are staffed up and amendments to the Tahoe ordinance have passed. We should start seeing progress there in the coming months, including targeted outreach and education activities that are anticipated to begin in March. And the drawdown will also be reflective of the staff that are now on board and those salaries being paid. And then lastly, on administration, we continue to spend down on our administration budget. This should also begin to ramp up more as we launch implementation of the additional programs as well. So, updates on milestones. LHD staffing plan is underway. We anticipate council consideration of a fully comprehensive staffing plan. As we've talked about and shared, as I've shared with you previously, we're working on preparation of a full LHD comprehensive staffing plan for implementation of ULA programs. This is going to include recommendations on the structure and the staffing of the permanent inspector general. It will also include a comprehensive multi-year staffing request that anticipate needs over the coming years. What we are going to try to do is, and everyone here knows we've talked in great detail about the fact that, frankly, hiring is a process in the city. It takes time. And so what we're working to do is align the implementation plan of programs over the next 2 to 3 years with staffing needs in a phased-in process. So we're trying to be extremely surgical in creating this plan. To be able to say to council, we're going to need X financial development officers by Y date down here, so we're going to need to have the authorities here so that we can have the people in the seats when we need the people in the seats. So it will be quite a sweeping plan, but it will also be very nuanced, and it will be less of a blunt instrument than, quite frankly, staffing plans tend to be, which is we need all these people and we need them now. That's actually not true. We need some people now, we need some people later. We phase that in. We're working to finalize those requests and are targeting to bring a report forward to the city council next month, and we will report back to this group, along with particularly, obviously, the permanent inspector general framework that we're recommending, at least. Okay. Additionally, as we noted in the last, and this is exciting, as we noted at our last meeting, in December, the city released a request for proposals to select a contractor to implement the capacity building program, a landmark part of ULA and what will be a landmark piece of work for the city of Los Angeles and LA Housing Department. Information is available on the LAHD website. Due to the import of this program and in recognition that potential bidders may have been impacted by the events of last month, we opted to extend the application deadline. So a second bidders conference will be happening next Thursday, February 20th, and the application window now closes on Monday, March 17th. We're very excited to share updates with y'all on this whole program and including on the selection of a contractor. And last but certainly not least, there we go. We're excited to share that as of last week, the department has begun implementation of the interim income support program for rent burden at-risk seniors and persons with disabilities. As a reminder, the interim program, sort of 1.0, distributes $11 million by providing one-time payments of $20,000 to 494 eligible households that include very low-income seniors and/or people with disabilities who are at risk of being displaced from their homes. These folks were applied previously for the short-term emergency rental program back in October of 2023. They were, and just also as a reminder for everybody, particularly folks who weren't on the committee at that point, the city, LHD, the COC, had $30 million to spend on that short-term emergency rental assistance program. We got almost $500 million in requests. It was necessary on its face to figure out how to narrow eligibility because there just wasn't enough money to meet demand. It is not a satisfying answer. It is a painful reality, but we had to do that. And one of those factors was folks who owed more than 6 months rental arrears and therefore fell out of the framework of the short-term emergency assistance program, which allows for up to 6 months rental arrears. They were ultimately ineligible, which again, is painful to say that anybody was ineligible, but in a world of scarce resources, there had to be those decisions, and that is also pursuant to the measure. But in implementing this program, and in doing so in the most expeditious way possible, which meant not doing another application portal, having to frankly go through the process of executing a contract amendment with the city attorney on the administrator and going through, a continued process, which we would not be through yet. We chose, and the COC approved, and the council approved, a program through which those seniors and those households with seniors and persons with disabilities at 50% AMI or below, who were in the universe of folks who were ineligible because they owed too much, and on average that was $21,000 in rental arrears. Those are the folks who are now eligible for this interim income support program. I just give that more just detailed contextual explanation because, obviously the caller that we've heard from and listened to and frankly feel, it's painful to walk through that. I shouldn't even say that. I'm not walking through that. And I don't really have great answers other than that we just have a limited, even as bountiful as ULA feels in some ways, it's not enough. And so we've had, as a COC, as a department, as a city, to make decisions in terms of prioritization. And this is not aligning necessarily. I will say we've got her number. I believe our team reached out to her via email after the last meeting. I'm not sure how that followed or what happened there. I know that it happened. We will also follow up with her via telephone, and we have her telephone number. None of those are satisfying answers, but I do, in the spirit of, in this, I feel compelled to certainly walk through as much of that as is possible. So there are a lot of folks, though, who are going to benefit right now, and that's exciting for them, and that's exciting for ULA, for the COC, to be able to get money moving. That process has started. That went live 2 weeks ago. That's not an application portal. That just means those folks have been outreached to. And they are now, there's a host of folks. In fact, I've got some updated numbers, I think. There's a host of folks who are already having their consultations. Recall that a partnership with United Way has allowed for, through their generosity, Legal Aid Foundation to provide tax and benefits consultation to those recipients to make them fully aware of the implications on any benefits they may have prior to being a participant in this program, which is huge. Many of the folks in this universe have existing benefits. Just getting a chunk of money can unwittingly blow up those benefits. And in good conscience and in good faith, as a city, as a COC, we can't do that. That's also made it a challenge to set this program up. It's just complicated. There's a lot of pieces, right? And including that. So what's gonna happen is those LAFLA attorneys are gonna do this outreach. And it's not gonna just be a call, get the voicemail, well, next in line. We're gonna chase them down, right? And then they'll have the consultation, and then they'll receive. As of last Monday, 671 applicants received notification via email that they are eligible for one-time income support payment of $20,000. That's income support for households with rent burdened, at-risk seniors and persons with disabilities at 50% AMI or below. As of Tuesday night, like is in this Tuesday night, right? Yeah, just confirming. As of Tuesday night, 76 applicants had their documents verified and have been approved. And by the way, that's documents in the most benign language, as in they just confirming that they still live in the city of Los Angeles, et cetera. Pending tax benefits consultation with LAFLA. 30 participants scheduled an appointment for consultation, which frankly, that's a pretty solid turnaround that quick within a week. I mean, we all know, like scheduling something even when it's going to be helpful to you is sometimes difficult. 10 participants have already completed the consultation. No payments issued yet, but I will guarantee you that's coming fast. And another partner of all of ours, the Housing Rights Center, Southern California Housing Rights Center, who administered the ERAP program, is also administering that program. This is an active program. It is a groundbreaking program. You are all hard pressed. We are all hard pressed to find income assistance programs like this for this universe of folks. That was part of the visionary approach of the ULA Coalition and the authors of this measure. Many folks on this COC who were part of that. I'll call them out, ranging from 2015 to ACT LA to United Way, and a host of others, really led on this. And it's exciting that this is a live program, albeit an imperfect program, right? I'm going to come back to income support in terms of the future stuff, and we'll entertain as many questions as folks have. Meanwhile, I will go to slide 9, tenant outreach and education. So on tenant outreach and education, we've used, oh, wait, sorry. Okay, so going back to income support. So the city council has the Housing and Homelessness Committee of the LA City Council, in the context of the Los Angeles fires, which I don't have to describe the calamity and the pain and the emergency that we're all mired in and navigating through and will ultimately emerge from. That The Housing and Homelessness Committee of the City Council instructed LAHD to identify any conceivable resource, including from ULA funds, but also from other funds, that could be allocated to or directed towards emergency support for folks impacted by the fires. One resource that was most immediately obvious for LHD is the $14.6 million in ULA funds allocated to the income support program for fiscal year 24-25. These are funds that are separate from the 11 million in the 23-24 that we just talked about, and that is live and moving right now, right? We have a fuller discussion planned on this in item 8, and I'm probably getting ahead of it, so I'm not going to mess up the agenda, Michael and Madam Chair. But if it's our committee, I'll hold off on describing that program in that update. But just know that, well, now I'm going to come back to it. So meanwhile, we also identify tenant outreach and education resources. We have 3.3, although it says 3.6. I think we're at 3.3 in remaining fund balance in the tenant outreach and education program. Actually, I shouldn't say it. It must be 3.6 because I trust our admin and budget team. And what we have said to council, and we say to y'all, and is that this is elegantly available to outreach around emergency resources to tenants. As a reminder, you all know, you remind me of this all the time. This money is strictly for educating tenants. There's a lot of opportunities and necessities there. An example is that the city council, for example, tomorrow will be entertaining and deliberating on a motion around potential eviction defense / moratorium for folks impacted by the fire or folks citywide. And whatever emerges from that, we're going to want to communicate, right, to tenants. Folks are going to need to know. There's a lot of reasons for folks to know their rights right now, too, right? We are also implementing the Just Cause Ordinance, and we want to be able to communicate that. And we're going to need to be able, if this body and the city council approves movement on, well, I mean, we actually have approval to move to the, on this, but I mean, if y'all approve adding a priority factor, which we'll come back to, we're going to want to communicate with folks about an emergency income support program as well. So this is exciting, and it comports with the expenditure plan, it comports with the program guidelines, et cetera. So that's also resources available there. And then lastly, in terms of updates, we have a new LHD general manager, as you all know, Tina Johnson Hall. She was going to be here today and talk with everybody. She has been called into an emergency meeting relative to the emergency with the mayor. It's probably the only thing that would have kept her from coming, but she's got to do that. She's getting herself up to speed and is completely immersed. Her second day on the job was January 7th. So it has been quite a Rubicon to work through, and but she's doing it. We plan for her to be here at the March meeting, and look forward to her meeting y'all and y'all meeting her. So that concludes the update. Oh, I'll go back. That concludes my update. Any questions or feedback? Yeah, Commissioner Raymond?
Yes, thank you. That was very comprehensive. I had a couple of questions about the interim income support program, /ideas, questions /ideas. So in terms of the payments that are going out, like how are we thinking about evaluating the program?
I love that question.
Just like any thoughts about partnering with universities or research firms, just to understand, because I know it's like a very innovative new program and we're going to want to learn from how this first round of payments go.
A, I couldn't agree with you more. B, in motion, are in that the partnership with United Way, they have agreed to fund an academic partner. And we're working on what that evaluation will look like. Because you're absolutely right. We miss an amazing opportunity if we don't really evaluate. And this is one of the challenges in terms of evaluation, like qualitative and quantitative, right? And process and results. And so we're literally figuring that out. And Commissioner, I know you have lots of thoughts on this and you've worked on stuff. Any input you want to proffer up, please do in writing or whenever, just call us. But yeah, we are definitely, and it's critical. I mean, again, to use a scientific term, the income support program is probably the least in our wheelhouse of the ULA programs, right? And frankly, the more we learn, and I know I've said this to y'all ad nauseum, the more we've learned, the more we know that just it's very few jurisdictions in this country are doing what is essentially sort of a quasi, general basic income for this population, for seniors and persons with disabilities. And so figuring out what the sweet spot is between a financial cliff, which is what time limited subsidies do, but also like locking in all of the dollars forever, because this committee didn't want to do that either. Tricky. We got to think that there's some process pieces to it. What does a lump sum mean versus monthly? What does consultation and intense navigation services do? What does that need to look like, right? And so yes, that was a long way to answer you, Commissioner. I apologize for that, but absolutely very excited about that part.
That's great. The other piece is kind of related in terms of, especially as we're thinking about communications, understanding who from the recipients would be willing to share their stories, be part of any sort of communications about the impact of the program? It's
a great question too. We are very keen to find folks who are willing to talk about their experiences. Recall at the community town hall, there was a gentleman there who was just incredibly emotional and transparent and generous, right, in his testimony about the short-term emergency assistance program. We're working to do that. I'll tell you, I mean, just candidly, one of the challenges is that a lot of folks are not sort of by default super excited to share their stories with a government agency that calls and says, hey, tell me about, your thing. So we got to figure that out a little bit, including potentially contracting with somebody and who can bring in as soft a touch as I bring, a contractor may do a better job of that, right? And so we have to do that. It's critical to tell the narrative. It's also critical to understanding. And so part of the, tying it back to the original question about the academic evaluation, that's another piece, is ensuring to the degree possible, because we're not going to make that compulsory, but, hopefully getting people to be willing to engage in that study as it happens. And it's also a newly precarious time at the risk of being master of the obvious in terms of people disclosing information. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have an idea how many of the people are going to receive that support? That is one. The second is, how is going to be the process? How is going to know the people about this program? I'm very interested to know that.
For sure. Thank you, Committee Member Morales, and it's good to see you. So the process, and I'll do a sort of truncated version, but we have the universe of folks, right? These are, again, people who were ineligible for the income or for the short-term emergency assistance program because they owed more than 6 months back rent, but who lived in the city of Los Angeles, who have persons with disability or are seniors in the household right? We actually have that universe. Mm-hmm. First step is going through and just reconfirming their data. They have to still live in the city of Los Angeles. They have to still live there because the whole point is to prevent the displacement. Go through that, confirm their data. Then there will be a handoff to the tax attorneys or to the tax and benefits attorneys, who will then, along with us and the Southern California Housing Rights Center, reach out to them, explain the requirement that they participate in a benefits and tax consultation session. They will then have that session, for lack of a better way to put it. And just to be clear again, as much as I wish this weren't the case, there is not a perfect answer on, that consultation is not going to solve everything in terms of the benefits implications, right? But part of the goal is A, to ensure that anyone who does receive this assistance is eyes wide open in terms of the implications and any kind of, implications for their benefits. And ideally, even though, as a reminder, these attorneys are not their legal representatives. They are simply giving consultations, and that will stress because they're not representing them. They're just giving them consultations, but also potentially, help them understand what strategies may diminish the impacts, right? And I don't want to like get ahead of myself because I'm not a benefits or tax attorney about what those strategies may be. But I know, like there's different ways that, folks can spend things, frankly, to have it look more like income or less like income and things like that. And so that'll be part of those conversations. It's just really a consultation with people who care, and the LAFLA attorneys certainly do. Then once that's done, then they come back to the Southern California Housing Rights Center. They don't. I mean, their information, the confirmation of their consultation goes to them, and the Southern California Housing Rights Center will issue checks. And that's literally, like I say, happening right now. Everyone in that universe has been notified. Right now, the scrub is being done on their documents to make sure that, again, I hate using the word documents in 2025, but they're just like in terms of making sure that they still live in the place where they applied from, and some have already are already having their consultation. So it's happening right now, Commissioner.
In that universe, is a new people who come to enter to that universe, or is already there?
It's already there, and that was, again, there's no good answer on any of this because there's just not enough money to meet all of the need. But in the spirit of A, being able to move the money as quickly as possible, and B, recognizing that these were folks who had gone through an application process. They had already sort of raised their proverbial hand and engaged in this process. The COC, the department, we all agreed that that was the best path in a place where there's no perfect path where you can meet everybody's needs. And the city council did as well. Obviously, committee member, I wish we could open it up and we had endless amounts on this. We just don't. And so that was the tactical decision made there, or the strategic decision.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, it's not my meeting.
Greg, thank you. I appreciate where you're going with this, but I want to tag on to my colleague here in regards to building that academia piece.
Yes, please.
Particularly with seniors and persons with disabilities. Is there anything precluding us from developing a narrative class, getting those folks comfortable enough to share their lived experience? Again, where we can get bang for the buck is on the lived experience side, encouraging them in that effort, and then giving a carrot, perhaps maybe a continuing education credit or some element to boost the other side for them with the self-sufficiency piece. Is there anything precluded from going that idea?
Not at all. And it's great ideas and great questions. So we would be very, very open to thinking about that. And that's very fluid right now, like in figuring that out. So Commissioner, everybody, y'all know we're an open book. So any ideas, anybody wants to meet, talk through some of those ideas, all in. And it's a great idea because I think the more we could inculcate this sort of like soft handoff, the more I think folks will be open to being part of something, frankly, larger, right?
Will there be additional discussion on this topic, given the action item that's?
We have another action item that can have more discussion there.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay.
So we're going to officially close item number 6 and move to item number 7. I'm sorry, close item number 7 and move to item number 8, which is the LAHD presentation on proposed income support for rent burdened at-risk seniors and persons with disabilities program for disaster. I have a motion and pretty sure I have to read it. Let me read the motion. The January 2025 Los Angeles wildfires represent the most calamitous and sweeping natural disaster in our city's history. Billions of dollars of destruction to homes, businesses, and public and private infrastructure will require years of recovery work and the energy and focus of all levels of government. The human costs of destruction have been profound, resulting in the loss of life, loss of home, and loss of crucial wage and income. In addition to the direct displacement of individuals who lived in the burn zones and lost their homes, the ripple impacts of business, job, and wage losses will inevitably result in additional displacement and housing destabilization for Angelenos all over the city, particularly for households that include some of our most economically vulnerable neighbors. The scope of those impacts may be incalculable. At the January 22, 2025 and January 29th, 2025 meetings of the Los Angeles City Council's Housing and Homelessness Committee, the committee directed LAHD in coordination with the Community Investment for Families Department to evaluate all potential available resources that could be utilized to support fire relief and recovery efforts. At those meetings, LAHD identified $14.6 million allocated to the income support for rent burdened at-risk seniors and persons with disabilities program, income support program, in the ULA fiscal year 24-25 expenditure plan as a potential source to provide direct income assistance to households with low-income seniors and/or persons with disabilities who are at risk of homelessness due to hardship caused by the January 2025 LA wildfires. Additionally, LAHD identified over $3 million remaining in the tenant outreach and education expenditure category as a potential source for communicating with impact Angelenos regarding price gouging, disaster recovery resources, and other tenant protection and recovery efforts currently being considered by the City Council. The purpose of ULA is to produce affordable housing of multiple typologies, prevent Angelenos from falling into homelessness, and to expand tenant self-determination in their housing experience regardless of ownership tenure. As part of the city's comprehensive approach to end and prevent homelessness, the ULA Income Support Program follows suit to prevent the displacement of and foster housing stability for households with lower income, rent-burdened, at-risk seniors and/or persons with disabilities by mitigating the effects of income instability in those households through the provision of income support. On December 10th, 2024, the Los Angeles City Council adopted the ULA Citizens Oversight Committee's recommended program guidelines for implementation of the income support program. Those program guidelines provide additional parameters governing implementation of the program, including establishing eligible participants, eligible activities, and priority factors. Beyond the priority factors explicitly stated in the program guidelines, the COC may, in its discretion, recommend additional factors consistent with findings from periodic needs assessments required per LA Administrative Code Section 22.618.6C2, as well as ongoing program reporting, in order to better align the program guidelines with areas of identified high need and to better achieve the goals of ULA as provided in Los Angeles Administrative Code, Section 22.618.6C10. Inclusive of additional factors at the time, inclusion of additional factors at that time shall have the effect of amending Section 3.3 of the Permanent Income Support Program Guidelines with additional factors carried forward as priority factors in subsequent application evaluations, unless, number one, the COC subsequently removes those factors, or two, in implementing the factors, the COC establishes a sunset period for that factor at that time. Okay. As set forth in the program guidelines, prior to the commencement of each application period for the income support program, the program administrator and the ULA COC shall determine a weighting methodology to assist with further prioritizing applications according to identified priority factors. Pursuant to the direction of the City Council to identify available resources, including from ULA to support the city's emergency recovery, LAHD has recommended the development and implementation in partnership with CIFT of an emergency income support for rent burden at-risk seniors and persons with disabilities program, utilizing the $14.6 million allocated to the program in the fiscal year 24-25 ULA expenditure plan for disaster relief. Per LAHG's recommendation, this emergency program would include the additional priority factor that eligible households must have either been displaced or economically impacted through lost employment or lost wages by the January 2025 Los Angeles wildfires. Consistent with the ULA guidelines for this program, those households must demonstrate income of no more than 50% area median income. This emergency program, an additional priority factor, would be consistent with the ULA ordinance, program guidelines, and LA Administrative Code, and within allowable program expenditures under the approved ULA fiscal year 24-25 expenditure plan. As this potential program represents a timely and critical opportunity to use ULA funds to support our city at this moment of compounding crises in a manner consistent with the vision, goals, and spirit of ULA and the income support program guidelines, I therefore move that the COC support LAHD's recommendation to continue developing the parameters and launch an emergency income support program for disaster relief in coordination with CIFD to prioritize Los Angeles's households that are at risk of homelessness or are recently homeless due to being economically impacted by the wildfires, are inclusive of seniors and or persons with disabilities and had a household income of 50% AMI or below prior to the fires. I further move that the COC approve the inclusion of a new priority factor for eligible Los Angeles households that are at risk of homelessness or are recently homeless due to hardship caused by the January 2025 Los Angeles fires, including loss of income due to workplace closure, business impact related to the fire, reasonable expenditures stemming from government-oriented emergency measures or displacement caused by mandatory evacuation to expire at the conclusion of this emergency program. I further move that the COC submit a letter to the Los Angeles City Council in support of these recommendations, and I further move that LAHD report back to the COC with progress and outcomes relative to this proposed program at the COC's next meeting and all subsequent meetings taking place while the program is still in effect and or being implemented.
And again, Madam Chair, I second.
Okay, so I move to,
So you
Okay.
made your motion.
I've made my motion.
Motion seconded?
Seconded.
Any
Thank you.
discussion?
Discussion. Mhm.
So I see in the motion, it makes reference to a commencement of of the application period for the income support program, and at which point the program administrator, LAHD, and the ULA COC shall determine a weighting methodology. So when is the commencement of the application period? Is that?
It is
set?
to be determined.
Is to be determined?
Yeah, there are, just completely transparently, there are a lot of elements that still have to be figured out, including just the when. But it was important, we thought, to report to y'all and seek your guidance as quickly as possible, and we had you meeting here. This is a very real-time endeavor. There are a number of different things we have to figure out, even in terms of before we can get there. One, how is it administered? Is it administered, and I've had the opportunity to speak with you about this, through LHD or in partnership with the Community and Investment and Families Department, where it could be done potentially, and I'm not going to speak yet for another department, but potentially in person at family source centers, which, speaking as Greg rather than the department, I would say I think that would be ideal, because these are folks with an added, on top of housing insecurity, these folks have the added burden of dealing with this disaster, and I think human contact would be important. But we had to figure out how much that would cost for them, and then also, more weeds than you may have wanted, Commissioner Chen, but also figuring out, again, the legal implications on benefits, right? We believe that these benefits, this emergency assistance, and the language is important, that this emergency assistance is exempt from being treated as income under what's called the Stafford Act, which is the federal statute that governs this sort of portfolio. We're working to affirm that and potentially request actual memorialization of that, so that in implementation from the Social Security Administration, so that in implementation there's Exhibit A, because on the ground. Then we also have to, and that also has implications in terms of who would administer, not the department, but actually the checks, right? So we had to figure that out. And then also if it's going to be a monthly sum versus, or if it's going to be a lump sum versus a monthly sum, and quite frankly, the impact on benefits will largely govern that. We're looking for the sweet spot where that's going to be the least vulnerable. And all of that still has to be figured out. I literally, right before this meeting, I had a meeting with the mayor's office and with CIFD and LAFLA to figure out how quickly we can get to the SSA. So it is all in real time, and it would be guesswork right now. In terms of when that application period and how long it would be, because that's the other thing, is getting to folks, again, particularly in a period where a lot of folks are pretty precarious about being, coming. In light of some of the threats to individuals in our city and other cities. So figuring out the outreach to make sure that we're getting the response. These are still open questions, Commissioner, that we have to figure out. What we are, certainly requesting of the committee is the support for the paradigm, as long as it is pursuant to the ordinance, pursuant to the expenditure plan, and pursuant to the permanent program guidelines. And then, that we would figure out the implementation of the program and report back, in great detail.
I mean, you're right. You're right. I think the impacts of the wildfires are far-reaching, and there's just the magnitude of impact is, it's almost unimaginable at this point. But I do keep thinking about that in addition, I think about you said $1 billion, there was $1 billion worth of requests.
Half a billion, but
$500 million, sorry. Mine was-
just a little.
Went straight
yeah.
to the billion. $500 million worth of requests for the emergency rental assistance program. So just thinking about all of that need, not just as a direct or indirect result of the wildfires, but just within the city itself, I just can't help but, feel concern for the amount of, requests that will come through. And if I can I propose an amendment at this time? Could I propose an amendment for the formation of an ad hoc committee to discuss specifically the weighting methodology to assist with prioritizing applications? And I believe this is supposed to happen prior to the commencement of a application period. So is that something I could?
Amending to say I further move.
Is it an ad hoc committee? Is it an ad hoc committee? Committee be formed
Be formed.
to determine, yeah. Determine the weighting methodology to assist with prioritizing applications. According to identified priority factors.
I further move that an ad hoc be formed by the COC to determine weighting methodology, missing the phrase afterwards. To prioritize. Thank you.
Applications according to identified priority factors.
Well, we're gonna have to, the initial motion was moved and seconded. We need two motions. One, to amend the motion that's on the table, and then the second motion is to adopt the motion as.
Do I hear a motion to amend?
I move.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Clarification.
Yes.
Can I,
Interim Vice Chair Knight.
can I have a clarification?
Abstain.
Where are we voting right now? I think Alma has a clarification.
Yeah, because
Okay.
Sorry, but I need to have a clarification. Sorry.
Sorry.
Table that motion here. Okay, we'll take that motion, right? Is there a discussion on the amended?
that's what we need to do.
Is there a discussion on the amendment?
No,
It's not on the amendment.
it's only like a clarification about the motion.
But I did have a discussion in regards to the amendment.
Okay. Okay.
Please.
Mhm.
So for clarification, are we looking to add an additional ad hoc to the other ad hocs that we have? Or are we looking to specify this particular duty to the ad hocs that we already have?
My feelings is that, so later on the agenda, we'll be discussing ad hocs that should be formed for communications, governance, and town hall. We have in the past had an ad hoc for program guidelines.
I don't think it fits in any of the.
Yeah, it actually
I
can't.
don't think it fits here. I think it fits more in an ad hoc that's already expired. It's not an ongoing committee, so I don't know what the program committee,
I think it's a new committee.
it's a new.
If
ad
it's
hoc.
already,
It's a
yeah.
new ad hoc.
It can
It can go under
bring
government.
that ad hoc next meeting.
Okay. With that. Well, you need it.
What do you?
When you need it.
I mean,
You need them.
I would respectfully and humbly say, not when do we need it, but when do we need it? I mean,
Right.
for this program to be frankly relevant, we got to roll. And you're already going to start getting mad at me because it's going to take longer than we think, just because that is how things happen. And so I would humbly request that we don't hold off there. A suggestion, and Mr. Custodio, Madam Chair, I don't know if this is out of line or not, but is that it could fit within a governance ad hoc. I mean, that seems like a place where you could, I mean,
That's already on
do
the agenda.
programmatic.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
I
where-
mean, for what it's worth. And you're going to establish, or you may establish, you're considering and deliberating on a governance.
Or
ad hoc
could
today.
we revive the old ad hoc for program guidelines since that
That's-
maybe already stands?
So Madam Chair, leaning into this discussion, you can assign it to governance to look and analyze, thereby that governance ad hoc can make a recommendation to say, this looks like it could be built into an additional ad hoc in that area to expedite this a little bit more quickly.
And that would be faster than reviving the old ad hoc?
Yes, because we've already assigned the governance ad hoc. We've given specific duties, and again, you can add duties, Madam Chair, to the ad hoc at any time. Yes. Yes.
So
Under
governance
consideration.
you think governance would address this?
I think governance would assign a group
Governance.
that would address this.
So governance would look at the recommendation and then propose to have an additional ad hoc to address that particular area.
But is that quicker than getting
Yes,
this done
it
than
is
the
quicker.
ad hoc- Than another? ad hoc
I'm
committee?
still unclear on that as well, because we already
Yeah.
have this ad hoc.
Right.
We already have the ad hoc program, ad hoc committee on program guidelines.
Expired.
But you already came up with program.
Oh, so when we voted in the program guidelines,
Only the duration of that ad hoc was
Yes.
limited to.
Yes. It was close. It
and
expired.
so we're amending the program guidelines. It's a question, I really don't know.
But this is an amendment of the guidelines, correct?
Yeah.
Because we're adding additional priority factor.
You're the city attorney.
It's an amendment to program guidelines, so it seems like the program guidelines ad hoc would be able to do it, but.
What if there was again, am I out of line, Michael? What if there was an amendment to the motion to reconvene the ad hoc committee on program guidelines for one meeting?
Okay, for 1 year,
For one meeting.
for one meeting, okay,
I'm just, because I think that one of the concerns with
okay.
reconvening an ad hoc sort of for that amount of time, it ceases to be an ad hoc,
Waiting.
is part of the challenge. And,
Propose it there. Mhm.
or you could amend this motion.
We can reinstate the original motion.
There you go.
Original motion, okay.
It's already been moved and seconded,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
Discussion's over, we'll vote on that. And then when we open 10, then we could present.
Present.
To
proposal.
reopen
Yes.
the program guidelines ad hoc. Okay.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to reinstate? I need that.
Well, we never replaced it. We didn't vote on that. On the amendment. So,
So where are we voting on the first?
yes, the amendment, I guess, basically failed because we didn't present it. So now we will vote on the original motion.
Okay.
We are voting
Okay.
on the
Yes.
original motion.
It's been moved and seconded, so I will call roll.
Okay.
Any more discussion on the original?
Oh, is there? I think
Well,
Alma had.
You want,
She wanted to discuss.
we have a discussion on the original motion. Yes, thank you so much.
Yes.
let's go to vote for
Let's
the
go to vote.
original.
Okay,
Yeah.
Good.
we're good, we're
All
good.
right. Chairperson Espinosa Coulter,
Yes.
Interim Vice Chair Knight,
Yes.
Member Chen.
Yes.
Member Holman,
Yes.
Member Jones,
Yes.
Member Morales,
Yes.
Member Raymond,
Yes.
Member Reed,
Yes.
Member Solana. Oh, sorry.
It's so ethical.
It passes. Okay. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Then I am closing item. Goodness, I'm closing item 8.
Thank you, committee.
Should we skip to item 10? Should we skip item 9 and come back to it after 10? I'm feeling like we should skip 9 for now and go straight to item 10. Item 10 being approval of the ad hoc work plan and appointments. Please find the supplement materials here. There's a 1-pager. We are excited to present the first of 3 work plans for our 2025 ad hoc committees. These committees will help us move the COC forward in a structured manner to ensure that all members are involved in the work and that any work is delivered back to the full COC for approval in your folders. You will find the work plans along with the proposed staffing plans based on the survey that was sent out to members. We will now have a discussion on these work plans and proposed staffing lists, followed by a vote to approve them for 2025. How to start? So, Abby, would you like to do a little?
Sure, yeah. So these are the first 3 of the ad hocs that we had discussed adding to our work plan. Thank you. So these are the first 3 ad hocs, the communications ad hoc, the governance ad hoc, and the town hall ad hoc. I do just want to caveat this by saying that we had floated the idea of like a program guidelines ad hoc as something that we are already planning on implementing. We can start that now. We can also start that like later on when more programs come online, but that is something that the group has already discussed bringing to the floor. So that could be a place to start this work that we've already discussed. What I will say is, so most of the members have already like volunteered themselves to sit on one of these ad hoc committees. Not all have. So we want to make sure that everyone is ideally, depending on capacity, of course, assigning themselves to at least one ad hoc to kind of really move this work forward, because there's going to need to be a number of things that happen kind of all at the same time. We need to begin planning the town hall at the same time at which we're thinking about how we're communicating out to the general public about these programs, and to Commissioner Raymond's point, how we're informing the members and asking for their testimony about our programs, and then also considering questions of conflict of interest, any of the bylaws pieces that need to be updated, and any other governance pieces. So what I will ask as your staff is that if you are assigning yourself to one of these committees, you can be fully present to participate in, at minimum, monthly meetings. We really do need all hands on deck here. So that's the only thing I'll say about creating an additional ad hoc committee, is that we do need it to be staffed up, and folks need to be able to commit based on their capacity to a group. But the IIG is here to staff and support you all and whatever decisions that you make, and so we're happy to do so. But that is what I'll say about that.
So I'm entertaining a motion.
So I think first we should, and anyone else with maybe more knowledge than me that can jump in, we can discuss the work plans. I think we need to have some time for discussion on the duties lined out in the work plans, and then just making sure that everyone is aware that they have been assigned, if they've assigned themselves, and that they're okay committing themselves to serving on an ad hoc. And that is on this ad hoc staffing plan that you can see that's been in your folders.
So we have currently 3 ad hocs that are proposed. There's the communications, governance, and town hall. Descriptions. The purpose, okay, I'll go through the purposes. The purpose of the communications ad hoc is to serve a limited and single purpose that is time-bound and will be dissolved once its specific task, well, that's the ad hoc description, I'm so sorry, shall exist to create communications and outreach plan to inform the community of the ULA COC's progress and shall be dissolved at the end of 2025. The ad hoc members shall be supported by the COC IIG. Your scope of work is to maintain news updates on the COC website, create marketing materials for activities of the COC, of the ULA COC, research on priority populations to support committee outreach efforts, media communications to promote work of the ULA COC to the broader Los Angeles community, and any other matters concerning communication needs of the ULA COC. That is the communications ad hoc. And so far, staffing includes myself, Laura, and Daniela. All right. I'm looking for governance, where I want to spend a little bit of time. Governance shall exist to address governance matters of the ULA COC from January to December 2025 and shall be dissolved at the end of 2025. The committee members shall be supported by the COC IIG. We shall have authority to address matters of the following topics: editing or updating the bylaws, addressing matters of vacancy and conflicts of interest, nominating ULA COC leadership, any matters concerning the day-to-day operations of the ULA COC. A quick description of the town hall ad hoc. Oh, I'm sorry. Included in governance are Taylor, myself, Jacob, Zella, Leilani, and Alma. Forgiveness for using first names. Very sorry.
And if I can just hop in for a sec. So the governance ad hoc, there's room on communications and town hall to take more members, but we cannot take more members on governance because we will hit quorum if we do so.
The town hall ad hoc, I'm going to skip down to the scope of work, is for planning the content and run of show for the 2025 town hall, addressing budget and finances of the town hall, convening a team of volunteers to support the town hall, and any other matters concerning the planning of the 2025 town hall. Okay, so those are the general descriptions. The town hall committee as it stands is Nancy Lewis, Zella Knight, and Jennifer Gata. Right, so I think that we have to discuss governance ad hoc and add to the scope of work. Is that what we're officially doing? Reinstating the program. The one. Okay.
And I'm not sure who was on that ad hoc program, so we may need to appoint.
I can tell you. I can tell you. Were you and Debbie on it? You and Laura and Debbie, myself, Alma, and Alan. No, Alan was not.
Alan, former Commissioner Alan, and then also former Commissioner Deepika, we're all on the ad hoc committee.
But at the end, it was just Michelle, Laura.
At the end, it was just Michelle, Laura, and Deepika. It sounds like.
Okay. So we need to reinstate the ad hoc for program guidelines, and it is to be staffed by, and we need to decide who's going to staff it, or we have to stick with the composition at the very end?
No, I think we need to decide who is going to staff it based on the commissioners present and, yeah, as long as it's less than a quorum and people have capacity.
I'll, um, well, go ahead. Okay.
Are the program guidelines part of the day-to-day operations of the ULA COC?
No, they're LAHD's day-to-day operations.
Thank you.
So can I appoint you? Okay. Can I appoint you? I would like to appoint myself. Can I do that? Okay, and can I call for volunteers?
Did we do a motion to reinstate it?
Okay, I would like to make a motion.
The motion would be that you approve what's in the agenda with the addition of reinstating. So just we want.
Go ahead.
So just to make sure I'm following correctly, the motion is to reinstate like the entirety of the ad hoc committee, which includes communications, governance, and town hall? Or are we just talking about governance right now?
So we've got two things going on. We've got appointing these are brand new ad hoc committees. And in the past, we have had one ad hoc committee that was for program guidelines. And so that is the ad hoc committee that will be reinstated for one meeting. Yes.
So, okay, so that would be one meeting, but the ad hoc communications, governance, town hall, those are the bi-monthly so they're two separate. Thank you. I was confused.
No, one motion. Okay.
So Madam Chair, you're reinstating the expired ad hoc to move the work for one meeting.
In addition to approving.
Good question. So if I have yet to assign myself to an ad hoc, but I need to be on the staffing list for the ad hoc before we move forward with it, or it doesn't matter, I can add myself later.
So the staffing list was simply meant to expedite the process of avoid this, to avoid the back and forth during the meeting. So we presented based on the Google survey that we sent out. That was meant for you all to be able to decide your top first, second, and third choices. And then we, based on that, assigned you all. And then we would have done that for other ad hoc. Well, we will do that for the other ad hocs as well. But it was just kind of meant to expedite the process. So then when we come here, we can bring a staffing list and bring that to the floor. So it's a little easier to kind of decide who is on the committee and who's not. So to answer your question, no, you don't have to be on the staffing list to assign yourself, but the official list will be whoever is appointed during this meeting. So if you would like to volunteer yourself for one, feel free, just not governance because it's full.
Can I volunteer myself for communications then?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to give it a try. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Can I just make a request that amendment, include authorization for that ad hoc to make recommendations in conjunction with LHD? Because if that ad hoc meets in 2 weeks, whatever, and then we're at March, we're going to lose time. So it would be, that would be certainly our request. And I think it's in the interest of the program.
Authorization to make recommendations with in conjunction
Well,
with.
you're right, because what the, what the guidelines state explicitly is that the COC and the administrator, LHD,
Mhm.
are empowered to create additional priority factors. And so working with us on that ad hoc, presumptively that we could,
Mhm.
effectuate that.
Okay, I'm gonna give this.
And it's only a matter of time. Like, it's not about not wanting to come back to the group. It's just, if we're able to move fast, we should all be interested in moving fast.
Sorry, Chair, and one more offering here. Maybe just so that you're not limited to one meeting, just in case you need more, say up to
Yeah,
some number.
Okay,
that's very good.
all right, I got a couple of things going here. 10 meetings, okay. All right, so I will entertain a motion on the approval of the ad hoc work plans and appointments. I will also entertain an amendment which will include an ad hoc the ad hoc for program guidelines to be reinstated to determine weighting methodology in order to prioritize applications according to priority factors for the income support program. And I further move that the ad hoc for program guidelines be allowed to meet up to 10 meetings. 10? And I, and I further move that the ad hoc committee for program guidelines have the authorization to make recommendations in conjunction with LAHD to create final guidelines for the income support program.
With the further addition of committee members say
I further move that the ad hoc appointments for the communications committee include Commissioner Charlie Saya. I further move, no, are you? Oh, you're already on the staffing list. Okay, you're fine. Okay. Daniela, yeah. Okay, you are. Okay, all right. Ma'am. I further move that Commissioner Zarita Jones is added to the communications appointment. Is appointed to the communications ad hoc. I further move that the program guidelines ad hoc appointments include Debbie Chen, Laura Raymond, and Michelle Espinosa Coulter. And Zarita.
second?
Is there? Second. And Alma Morales.
Yes.
Program guidelines.
There. That's your.
That completes my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
I move to vote. Motion's been moved and seconded. I will call the vote. Chairperson.
Yes.
Let it rip, yes.
Committee member Kennedy.
Yes.
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 Raymond.
Yes.
Committee member Reed.
Yes.
That concludes item 10. We're going to go back into the agenda for item 9. Another call to action. At today's meeting, we are voting to fill the fiscal year 24-25 vice chair position. For context, we'd like to update the members on where we left off in December 2024. The IIG staff reached out to the COC for nominees before the December meeting. 3 nominees were included on a ballot brought to the December meeting. For a variety of reasons, all nominee names were withdrawn. The IIG staff and I continued working, though in a bit of a vacuum, with which we were very uncomfortable. And so we looked to the bylaws to see if we could appoint someone to help us with the workload and to bounce ideas off of until we could come back together as a committee and vote officially on a vice chair. In December, you all received an email from the IIG with a communication from me saying that I had appointed Zella Knight as interim chair, vice chair until such time as the full COC could elect the vice chair. Zella, we appointed Zella because she was excited to help and very knowledgeable of Robert's rules and governance and committee workings. And thank you for your work. During that time period, she carried the full duties of the vice chair, including conducting the business of the committee in accordance with the bylaws and under section 647-16A of the government code. We, of course, didn't meet in January because of the fires, but we are back now to vote for the permanent vice chair. And you all have in front of you a ballot. And this ballot was created as a result of a Google form that the IIG sent last month.
I would like to withdraw my nomination.
Okay. All right. So the ballot is being amended to withdraw Debbie Chen's name. Let's see. I'm going to remind you of one thing. So this chair would serve until the end of fiscal year 2025. For fiscal year 25-26, we'll actually have a new vote for a chair and a vice chair. So that is coming pretty quickly. So now I need them to fill out their ballots. I need you to fill out your ballots. And if you find that a name is not on there and you would like to add it, please do write it in. But at this time, please fill in your ballot and Richard will come and pick them up momentarily. Did I forget something?
I'll just offer that if there isn't a clear majority at the first pass, we will take the top 2 vote getters and do a quick runoff.
Okay. Okay. Is it okay if they just pass them down? Can I touch them? No. Thank you.
Okay, we were close, but not quite to an outright majority. It comes down to Commissioner Jones and Commissioner Knight. So I'm going to redistribute ballots, and those are your only two options. All right, Commissioner Jones and Commissioner Knight. All right, so Commissioner Jones has gotten the majority.
I second.
Do we have to do, we don't, that's it. We have to do we have to? Does anybody have any discussion?
Might as well. All right. Meeting Chair Espinoza.
Yes.
Meeting Chair, Vice Chair Knight.
Yes.
Team Member Chen.
Yes.
Team Member Hong.
Yes.
Team Member Jones.
Yes.
Team Member Morales.
Yes.
Team Member Raymond.
Yes.
Team Member Lee.
Yes.
Fantastic. Great. Congratulations.
Yeah.
All right, that concludes item number 9 on the agenda. We are moving to item 11, which is a call for future agenda items. Yep. Okay, hearing none, we are closing item 11 and moving to adjournment. We're convening at 5 o'clock and we'll see you
Wow.
March 13th. Thank you. Thank you all. That's right.